Good evening. Welcome to tonight's Kalamazoo City Commission meeting of Tuesday, September 7th, 2021. I'm Deputy City Manager Jeff Chamberlain, and tonight's Kalamazoo City Commission meeting is being streamed live on the City of Kalamazoo's Facebook page, as well as the City of Kalamazoo's YouTube channel. You can also listen to tonight's meeting by calling area code 269-552-6425 and entering meeting ID number 899-9065-3723 when prompted. And you can also call and leave a public comment for tonight's meeting by calling area code 269-226-6573. And I'd like to turn tonight's meeting over to Mayor David Anderson.
Thank you very much, Deputy City Manager Chamberlain. I appreciate it. Welcome everyone on this stormy Tuesday evening. One day later than normal to have our business meeting because of Labor Day. And I'd like to call this meeting to order for Tuesday, September 7th to our 7 p.m. business meeting. First in the order is calling the roll. Clerk Borling.
Commissioner Cunningham.
Here in the great city of Kalamazoo.
Commissioner Hess.
Here in the city of Kalamazoo.
Commissioner Knott.
Here, Kalamazoo.
Commissioner Pradle.
Present in the city of Kalamazoo.
Commissioner Urban.
Here in the city of Kalamazoo.
Vice Mayor Griffin.
Here in Kalamazoo.
Mayor Anderson.
Here in the city of Kalamazoo. Thank you, Clerk Borling. For our opening ceremony tonight, we are honored to have Reverend David Zomer here from Bethany Reformed Church for our invocation. Reverend Zomer.
Thank you. Dear Lord, we ask a blessing upon each one of these counselors and city workers tonight. Thank you for the selfless ways they care for our city and they show their enthusiasm. Give them wisdom and courage to do that which is right on their hearts. Ask a blessing upon this meeting and be with all the folks in Kalamazoo as we go through another storm tonight. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Tonight, we do have a proclamation, and there's a lot of people here present for that. And that is, a good thing because this is a pretty amazing proclamation recognizing some fantastic work that is perhaps not fully recognized here in the city of Kalamazoo. And although it is at its inception stage, I can tell you that we have it's a great example of partnership. The proclamation will be read by Commissioner Hess, but I just want to say that it is recognizing Kalamazoo's Attainable Homes Partnership, which is really led by a nonprofit partner in Kalamazoo, Kalamazoo Neighborhood Housing Services, but also it will be received by a number of people who are part of the partnership. And I don't have all the names, so I will ask each individual respondent perhaps to introduce who is here this evening. I know that it's going to be received by Latoya Swindle, I believe, Matanya Wyrick, Cheryl Temby, I hope I said that right, and Jeff Toffel from Home Builders and the other associated guests. So with that, I will ask Commissioner Hess to please read this proclamation, and then we're hoping to have some comments from our guests here. Commissioner Hess.
Thank you, Mayor Anderson, and welcome to everyone here to receive this proclamation. I just have to say, as a member of as a visiting member of the Environmental Concerns Committee here at the city, it really does my heart good to see the environmental impact that this house can make in this community and on many communities in the future. Celebrating Kalamazoo Attainable Homes Partnership, September 7th, 2021. Whereas the Kalamazoo Attainable Homes Partnership, KAHP, was formed in 2019 in partnership with Kalamazoo Neighborhood Housing Services, Local Initiatives Support Corporation, and the Home Builders Association of Western Michigan, the City of Kalamazoo with funding from the Foundation for Excellence, and support from the Kalamazoo County Land Bank Authority. And whereas in 2019, 4 single-family homes were built, one each in Edison, Vine, East Side, and West Douglas neighborhoods, opening a path to home ownership for neighborhood residents. And whereas in 2020, Consumers Energy joined the partnership, adding funding and technical support to build more energy efficient homes. This pilot program with Consumers Energy was awarded the Affordable Project of the Year by the Michigan Energy Efficiency Contractors Association, paving the way for a new statewide rebate program on all electric homes in Michigan. And whereas in 2021, the partnership has completed an additional 4 homes and begun construction of 7 more homes, which will be available for sale to income eligible neighborhood residents in early 2022. These homes are located in East Side, Edison, North Side, and Vine. Whereas the Kalamazoo Attainable Home Partnership is committed to working with residents, stakeholders, buyers, and builders to improve its housing models and to meet the needs of community members. Now, therefore, on behalf of the 53rd City Commission, David F. Anderson, Mayor of the City of Kalamazoo, congratulates the Kalamazoo Attainable Homes Partnership, and for this recognition, and offer our community's gratitude for its great work helping Kalamazoo residents achieve home ownership. Thank you to all of you.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Hess. Well, I know that there are a variety of people here representing the partnership. One thing that is so important for all of us to remember is that we have a variety of goals that we are accomplishing all at once here. We're definitely talking about home ownership for families. That is something that is very, very important to this commission. We're talking about being aware of our carbon footprint and sustainability. And these homes are certainly making that mark. And we're talking about working together across all kinds of interests to make that happen. So I'm not quite sure how we want to, what the plan is for choreographing the acceptance of this here. How do we want to get this started?
I can certainly introduce, hi, I'm Jeff Toffel. I'm the CEO of the Home Builders Association of Western Michigan. Be happy to introduce some of the folks that we have, and then we can make a few comments. So I just introduced myself. I'll turn it over to our volunteer president, Aaron Hovestad.
Hello, everybody. Aaron Hovestad, volunteer president of the Home Builders Association, and I'm managing partner of Landmark Homes of Michigan. I'll turn it over to my friend Kevin.
I'm Kevin Osborne, owner of Osborne Construction, and on the board of directors of the HPA.
And then now over to our friends from our partner KNHS.
I'm Matt Mozart, the neighborhood services director over at KNHS Home Ownership Services.
And I'm Beth McCann, deputy director with KNHS.
And then also on the call, we do have 2 of our homeowners, as mentioned by the mayor. We have Latoya Swindle and Matanya Wyrick. And joining us from Consumers Energy and ICF is Cheryl Timmy. Oh, and Derek as well, yes.
So as far as comments from the Home Builders Association, I think one of the things that's really important to know is that every community is dealing with housing shortages across the United States, but not every community is able to do something about it, especially in neighborhoods where the cost of construction is simply more than the homes will appraise for. And so that's something that this program has been about overcoming, and that's where the city and the Foundation of Excellence comes in to make this possible. As we are setting a model for other cities across the United States, not every city has a foundation of excellence to lean on and to benefit from in this particular case. We even have neighboring communities right around Kalamazoo, whether that's Allegan to Hastings and Battle Creek, that are all looking at this as a model, but don't necessarily have all the great pieces of the puzzle that we have to put things together. This is one of the most amazing things that I've had the opportunity to work with in my association career. And I think one of the folks that I know we'd like to hear more from are the homeowners that have moved into the homes that we built in the first and second round. So maybe Matt, if you want to introduce them.
Yes, we do have with us tonight, as I had mentioned, Latoya and Matanya. if they wanted to speak at all on the, what it's been like to be able to move into these homes. They are new homeowners, so I'll hand it over to them if they want to have any comments for us. And from there, maybe we'll kick it over to Cheryl as well.
Hi, I'm Latoya. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can, Latoya.
Oh, great. Okay. So I live at 110 Burr Oak. I love my home. I'm currently getting my basement finished, but I moved in May 27th, 2021. I got a 4-bedroom, 2 full baths. It's great.
Excellent. Thank you.
I think mine's is going out. Okay. I don't know. I think my phone going in and out. I think I can see her. Can y'all see me? Oh, there I go.
Yes.
I go. As y'all can see, I'm currently laying in my home. And my power is out, but I guess I'm running off a generator. That's great.
All right.
Thank you very much. Back to you, Matt.
All right, I will at this point let Cheryl have some comments. I believe you have some info on us from Consumers Energy.
Hi, everyone. This is Cheryl Temby. I work for ICF, which is the implementation contractor for Consumers Energy, and we provide technical support and our expertise to the Kalamazoo partners. So at this point, I'd actually like to turn it over to Derek Knopfs from Consumers Energy for this piece. Thank you.
Yeah, we were just really happy to be a part of this project. It's just very uplifting to see the families that are affected, and really cool to be a part of this. Not only that, but we have a clean energy plan that involves phasing out our coal fleet and switching to a large portion of renewables in the next 20 years here. And so energy efficiency is a huge part of that, and something that we definitely want to encourage. And so we love to see projects like this, and are happy to be a part of it. And Latoya, we're working on getting your power back.
I ain't missing out yet. It's still on.
Well, one other thing that we can add about consumers' participation and what that has meant for the homeowners of these homes is, as we've talked to neighbors, when we've been building homes, we know that a lot of the families that live in the core neighborhoods of Kalamazoo are spending upwards of $400 a month in utility bills, especially in the winter. And what's really exciting about these homes is their total utility bills should average less than $100 a month all year long. So that is going to be a definite boost to all of the families that move into these homes. And again, all of that would not be possible without consumers. But actually every partner in this, from everybody that supplies the homes to KNHS that works on the home ownership side and owns the dirt for a while, if any one of the partners were not at the table for this, the entire program would fall apart. So there's equal accolades that need to go around to every single person that's been a part of building these homes, because if anyone's not here, it doesn't work. So we would love to give all of the commissioners a tour. If you would like to do that anytime, just let us know, and we'll be happy to take you on a field trip.
Absolutely. And really from KNHS, I want to share deep appreciation for all of our partners with the city, all the folks on this call, and most importantly, the homeowners. Our business is in the business of helping people become homeowners. And one real challenge we've seen in recent years, among many, is the lack of available housing stock for folks. We've had many of our customers have been ready to buy homes and found that they are priced out of the market. So this partnership has really been pivotal to getting some new homes on the market and made available to these residents who would love to reinvest in this community.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mazzarek. Anyone else wants to make any comments related to this? I'm not seeing anybody right now. Let me know if I missed you, but I just want to once again recognize the partners. I don't think I'm leaving anybody out. Kalamazoo Neighborhood Housing Services, Home Builders of West Michigan, Consumers Energy, Land Bank, and of course, critically important, as Mr. Toffel noted, the Foundation for Excellence. So Commissioner Hess and I had the opportunity to go attend an open house for a very nice home on the east side, right next to Rockwell Park. The quality of construction was phenomenal. I got a very nice tour. Thank you, home builders, and particularly the contractor who's directly involved in that home. The idea of energy efficiency, which is going to pay for decades and decades, so important. It's built into the home, and the assistance from Consumers Energy really makes it work as well. So thank you once again to all our partners. I'm looking forward to continued good work, more houses getting built, and more families being sustainably housed. So thank you so much for all your efforts. And we'll let you go this evening. If you want to get off and go ahead about your regular evening activities, we'll continue on with our commission meeting. Thanks once again.
Thank you.
Thank you so very much.
So commissioners, you have before you the agenda for tonight's meeting. Are there any changes you would like to see?
I would like to pull G8 from the consent agenda.
Thank you, Commissioner Cunningham. So we'll move G8 from the consent agenda to the regular agenda. Any other changes?
Yes, Mayor Anderson, this is Vice Mayor Griffin. I'd like to move item G9 to the regular agenda.
Okay, thank you so much. Vice Mayor, G9 will be moved to the regular agenda as well. Next on our agenda is communications. Manager Ritzma.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to call on our Public Services Director, James Baker. As everyone knows, we experienced some strong storms that came through the last few hours. So if Mr. Baker could give an update on the state of things relative to trees down and power outages, that would be great.
Thank you, Manager Ritzma. Yes, there's a storm system moved through the city a few hours ago. City crews are actively out working to help clean stuff up. And, we're out there doing that work to try to restore the situation. I will say that power restoration is not done by City Kalamazoo. However, city crews do assist with that vegetation and tree clear up. That being said, just a message for everybody in the community, please be safe and, please stay away from down trees. Those can often be ensnared with down power lines, especially now that it's dark, it's wet. You might not be able to see that. So please, if there's a tree blocking your street, please call that in, but please stay back from that. And we will continue to work through the night to clear the street and roadways and work to get this mess cleaned up. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Baker. Anything else on communications, Manager Ritzma?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you. Next on our agenda is the opportunity for public comments. Deputy City Manager Jeff Chamberlain, do we have any public comments?
Yes, sir, we do. We've got some, and we'll go ahead and begin playing those for you.
Thank you, sir.
Jeff Messer, city resident. The State Theater has resumed live, in-person, indoor performances at 100% capacity. Kalamazoo Public Schools have resumed in-person, indoor classes, despite the fact that the U.S. Food and Drug Administration hasn't approved a vaccine for people under the age of 12. This Saturday, Western Michigan University will welcome thousands of people to Waldo Stadium for a football game. Meanwhile, the Kalamazoo City Commission is in its 18th consecutive month of 100% virtual meetings. The commission continues to knowingly, blatantly, and openly disenfranchise citizens who can't access meetings in their current format. For those who can access electronic meetings, public participation continues to be severely restricted. On at least 8 occasions since July 20, 2020, I have offered the City Commission 4 alternatives to 100% virtual meetings: hybrid meetings, outdoor meetings, meetings spread across multiple rooms in City Hall, meetings at a larger venue. Tonight, I offer a 5th alternative: individual commissioner action. 2 commissioners have indicated a willingness to participate in alternatives to the 100% virtual format. Rather than waiting for other commissioners to act, you can simply tell the city manager's office that you will be attending the remaining 3 meetings this term from the dais in City Hall, and you are inviting the public to attend. The city manager's office has a hybrid virtual meeting plan developed and ready to implement, so you will be invoking that plan by announcing tonight that you will be attending the remaining meetings from City Hall. Remember, the city manager is subordinate to the City Commission and was hired to carry out the Commission's directives. Lately, the Commission has been shirking its leadership role and waits around for recommendations for city staff to rubber stamp. If no commissioners step forward now to establish hybrid meetings, I fear that the next commission will give in to the precedent that you have established and continue 100% virtual meetings well into 2022. Thank you.
Good evening. This is Dorothy Appleyard, resident of the city of Kalamazoo. I'm calling tonight to comment on agenda item 7, the rezoning of 333 East Alcott Street from M1 to RM24. I think we all understand the need for affordable housing of all types in this community, but this parcel, like others in this area, is susceptible to flooding. Neighbors in the area are already experiencing flooding events at regular intervals throughout the year. The impacts of climate change will likely exacerbate the problem. Dense development in this area will undoubtedly result in increased problems for adjacent residential neighborhoods. In the short time since Kalamazoo 2025 was adopted, our world has changed. Everyone has struggled in one way or another in the wake of COVID, and it seems unfair to put additional burden on one area of the city when we need housing of various types throughout the city. We need a multifaceted plan to expand housing, including infill and rehabbing of existing properties. Mr. Hollander, who is the applicant for the rezoning request, stated that that it's not guaranteed that he will be the developer. The project he presented was very conceptual, and he clearly stated that he has neither approval nor funding for this project at this time. The city should have a better understanding of the impact on surrounding properties before increasing the density of development in this area. There is time to adopt a visionary plan that expands affordable housing while enhancing the quality of life in every neighborhood. And I just wanted to say that the agenda report in the packet for this item, prepared by the city manager and reviewed by the planning staff, states that the Planning Commission voted unanimously to recommend the rezoning, and that is incorrect. There was one dissenting vote, and if you watch the meeting, you realize that there were concerns from other board members as well. I urge you to deny the zoning change request at this time. Thank you for your time and consideration. Good night.
Hi, this is TC Cussard calling from the city of Kalamazoo. I was having some difficulties with my comments, so I hope this one gets played. I'm calling on the behalf of the consent agenda, specifically item G number 9, the resolution setting for the salaries of the city commission appointees. What exactly have you guys done to get raises? I can tell you this: the city manager, Jim Ritzema, and the city attorney, Clyde Robinson, are the least of the 2 appointees to need to be considered for a raise. Where is the community's input on this? How dare you place such an agenda on a topic that most of the community requires input on when you have lacked so much for the last year and a half? We wanted to improve with transparency, and yet here you are again blindsiding the community once again. Where are your checks and balances in whole? From vice mayor's paperwork being pushed through to only prove that you yourself is not organized and letting her down. how dare Borland's office push this agenda. Talk about equality, diversity, and inclusion. It's time to stop coddling each other and hold yourselves accountable as a city commission and place value on the people that you serve. Our children are still heavily suffering. Buses can't get to them at an efficient capacity, and yet we are sitting here wanting to pass through potential raises. Thanks for showing the overall concern of where your agendas are. I'm appalled and befuddled by such. It's bad enough that our county is up in limbo with wanting to cut key components from the county commission, to here we are wanting to praise efforts for failed involvement within the community, failed efforts in the community, from riots. How can we move forward when we continually lack the accountability and want to praise efforts that shouldn't even be acknowledged? As Mayor Anderson likes to end every meeting, we're all in this together. Prove it. Hold yourselves accountable and do better, because it sure doesn't seem like we're in this together. Thank you for your time. I hope you put value on my comment. Have a good night.
Good evening. My name is Toby Hannah Davies, and I live in the city. I'm calling with two concerns regarding the Vice Mayor, Patrice Griffin, having to step down from City Commission. First, it seems wrong to me that a resident of Richland is able to take action that results in the removal of Vice Mayor Griffin from the City of Kalamazoo ballot. I've witnessed Vice Mayor Griffin's integrity, honesty, and commitment to creating equity for 3 years now since I met her. I trust her statement completely that she did not knowingly commit any falsehood. But the fact that a resident of Richland made a claim that she committed fraud, that makes me wonder about his motivation, his affiliations, and his character. It also seems wrong to me that given that Vice Mayor Griffin cannot run for mayor, her resignation from City Commission cannot be revoked. She was required to sign a resignation from the City Commission in order to run for mayor. It seems only right to me that since her name cannot be on the ballot for mayor, the resignation should be revoked and she should be able to complete the term on the City Commission that the voters elected her for. This is a new situation without precedent, right? It's not that long ago that Mayor Bobby Hopewell asked the voters to support the mayor being elected separately instead of being the highest vote getter of the City Commission candidates. It seems to me that this is a new, unexpected situation with Vice Mayor Griffin's resignation. Surely it can and should be revisited. Please look into that further. Vice Mayor Griffin is the vice mayor because she was the highest vote getter among the City Commission candidates 2 years ago. She's deeply appreciated by voters from all parts of the city because of her impressive work ethic, her passionate concern for people who have been treated unfairly, her very positive working relationships with all of her colleagues on the commission, her intelligence and integrity, and her way of walking in hope and faith. What a loss for the city to have her no longer on City Commission. Thank you.
My name is Mary Ellen Parmenter. I do live in the city of Kalamazoo, and I have a comment regarding the proposed public hearing for Graphic Packaging's request to extend their tax breaks. I'm extremely concerned because I feel that the businesses have had negative impact on the community in terms of pollution and smell. And I'm also equally concerned that the proposed day for the public hearing is the 20th, which is a Monday. And I want to know if anything has been done to make sure that affected constituents will be able to attend the meeting and that it's scheduled at a time that working people will be able to come. And I would think that a weekend time might be better, but I'm not sure. I think that people should reach out to the affected parties to make sure they're able to attend that hearing. Thank you so much.
Good evening. My name is Aaron Wright. I live at 1905 Schuyler Drive here in Kalamazoo. I'm the current chair of the Environmental Concerns Committee, And I just wanted to address the recent news that the state of Michigan appears to have communicated to city staff that the contingent tax abatement approved by the city commission last year is somehow not allowed because of those contingencies. While I personally find it frustrating that using these kinds of contingencies to leverage environmental action in our local area on the part of local businesses is not allowed, I think it's important to note the following. One, Graphic Packaging has installed 16 odor monitors and purchased the EnviroSuite software, the same product that the water reclamation plant has been using for the last, I think, year and a half to monitor hydrogen sulfide emissions as well as other emissions. GPI was required to do this under an agreement with Eagle. In other words, one piece of the city's disallowed contingency is already in place. Two, representatives from Graphic Packaging continue their participation in the odor task force. Just last month, they presented data from their odor monitoring system collected over the last few months. I also personally continue to attend these meetings, and I'm delighted to see the progress that's being made so far. And if at some point I sense that GPI is somehow backing off on their good faith efforts, you can be assured that the City Commission would hear from me on that. But overall the news is good. Odor mitigation efforts by both the water reclamation plant and GPI are moving ahead, and that's all good news. Monica Brothers, who is our local Eagle air quality analyst, tells me that there will be a public meeting sometime this month, a virtual meeting, to give an update on Eagle's odor monitoring efforts. They've installed a few odor monitoring units, again, around the north side of town, east side of town, as well as GPI's odor monitoring data, which they have shared with Eagle, and Eagle can communicate out at this meeting. So all of that stuff as far as odor mitigation goes is good news. However, I want to finish up with just highlighting that we also have concerns expressed by some in our community. Okay, last, I just want to finish up that Michigan Department of Health and Human Services is preparing a data review of local air quality. We are all eagerly awaiting that report. So if there's any communication that city.
Mr. Mayor, that was the last public comment. That last one, it cut off at the time limit, and that was the last caller.
Thank you, Deputy City Manager Chamberlain. So I just want to say that I really appreciate people making the extra effort to leave public comments. I know that there's some pieces of it that are a bit complicated, and I know it's a trade-off, but it does also save having to get out in a thunderstorm and come down to a meeting, which is what you used to have to do. But I appreciate all the heartfelt comments tonight, and those comments that were left will certainly be recognized, I know, in the topics as we discuss them going forward. So now we are to the consent agenda, and City Manager Ritzma, would you like to take us through that?
Sure. We have 10 items this evening. Items 8 and 9 have been pulled to the regular agenda. First is the approval of a 3-year contract with H2O Compliance Services Incorporated for the administration of a cross connections program in the amount of $135,000. Next is the approval of a contract with TreeWorks Incorporated for the removal of designated hazardous trees throughout the city and its cemeteries in the amount of $149,300. Next is the approval of a 2-year contract extension with Ridge Napa Auto Parts for auto parts in the amount of $150,000. Next is the approval of a 2-year professional service agreement with the Foster Group for utility rate and financial management consulting services in the amount of $225,000. Next is the approval of a professional services agreement in the amount of $395,600 with Prine and Newhoff for work related to the Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes and Energy Affordability and Planning Grant. Next is the approval of a contract with Peters Construction Company for the Parkview Avenue, Oakland to Tamsin water main replacement and street improvements project in the amount of $2,986,431.35. Next is the first reading of an ordinance to rezone 333 East Elcott Street from Manufacturing Limited District M1 to Residential Multi-Dwelling District RM24, and schedule a public hearing for September 20, 2021. And finally, approval of the minutes of the City Commission meetings of April 5, May 3, May 17, June 21, August 2, and August 16, 2021, and the minutes from the business meeting on June 7, 2021.
Thank you, Manager Rispa. So Commissioners, the requested action is to approve items 1 through 7 and item 10, and authorize the city manager to sign all documents on behalf of the city. Is there such a motion?
So moved.
Motion made by Commissioner Cunningham,
Second.
supported by Commissioner Hess. Clerk Borling, will you please call the roll?
Commissioner Hess,
Yes.
Commissioner Knott,
Yes.
Commissioner Pradel,
Yes.
Commissioner Urban,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Griffin,
Yes, to all except for 10 because I was not able to read through all of them myself.
Mayor Anderson,
Yes.
and Commissioner Cunningham.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioners. The items on the consent agenda are approved. Now we have 2 items on our regular agenda, what was formerly G8 and G9. Manager Ritzma.
G8 is adoption of a resolution setting a public hearing on September 20, 2021 to consider a request from Graphic Packaging International LLC to extend a PA 198 industrial facilities tax exemption certificate for 11 years for real property valued at $191 million.
Thank you very much, Manager Ritzma. Do you have any presentation on this?
Did Commissioner Cunningham ever have anything? He was the one that pulled it.
Okay, yes, Commissioner Cunningham.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Manager Ritzma. Yeah, this is a subject that was we had great length of conversation on last year, this time. And so, I know that there are some notable changes that we are taking. And so I wanted to A, get a update on those changes, and then B, if I could get a, update on some of the things that we've done during the meantime since last year, as far as odor remediation, and then also check in with Graphics Packaging if they could provide us an update on some of the things that they've done over the last year.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Cunningham. So Manager Ritzma, how would you like to manage that?
Certainly, I will turn things over to our Community Investment Manager, Antonio Mitchell, and he can walk us through the requested information that Commissioner Cunningham asked for.
Thank you, sir. Manager Mitchell.
All right, good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, City Commission, and City Manager. Thank you for having me here and the team that's going to assist with answering some of your questions. Like you said, we have myself here from the city. We have representative for South Michigan First that can assist with questions as well. We have Graphic Packaging, and in the case of the number 2 item, we have changes, which I'll go over real quick. We have the odor issue. Mr. Baker, James Baker, will assist with answering some questions there. And we also have a representative from Graphic Packaging that can answer questions there as well. And then GP can talk about the project, where it stands. I'll give a little information, and then they can provide any additional information they think is relevant towards assisting with this process. So why are we here tonight? Pretty much last September, the City Commission approved Graphic Packaging for a tax abatement. And in that process of the documentation that was sent to the state, you had pretty much approved a 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 6 year process for the tax abatement. Pretty much the state said pretty much we need to narrow in on one specific outline of date. You could not have the consecutive dates. And so they approved pretty much 1 year officially, and then the other years would have to be extensions. And so what's coming for you today is that on the 20th, we're looking at implementing some of the initiatives that were requested in with graphic packaging, and some of the items that were part of their initiative for the PA 198 have been initiated significantly, which they can talk about a little bit more. They had projected between 30 and 50 jobs. Now they're in the process of 80 to 100 jobs that they're going to be creating. 80 they already have currently. They're working with us with the order issue specifically. We're going to be working with them on a local agreement to continue that relationship more efficiently, which they've been participating. And I would like to commend the mayor, vice mayor, and commissioners on this initiative of really working very closely with graphic packaging, and also graphic packaging for stepping into this opportunity to work with us and our wastewater plant to really address this issue that has been around for many, many years, even before they acquired the company here locally. So I want to thank them personally for what they've been doing. We're working with Mr. Baker in this process and documenting this process with this order initiative that we have here and the steps that they're taking to continue to deal with that issue. In the case of the tax abatement, which is a separate component, which needs to be clear that the implementation of what's required under the tax abatement, they are meeting those requirements. The issue with the extension is that if you continue the process of the 1, 2, 3, 6 year component, you're pushing this out 2 more years for another mayor and commissioners possibly to deal with this issue, which they could follow the same format, or they could deny or also extend it similarly, or approve it for the remaining years of the 12 years, which you initially approved last year. So what we're looking to do is answer all your questions tonight and on the 20th with the public hearing, and make sure the residents understand what this tax abatement is for and how it's impacting the community. In the end, you're going to have almost 1,000 jobs with graphic packaging on the north side of Kalamazoo when this project is done and fulfilled. And I think that's going to be significant impact for this community, because they average between $60,000 and $70,000 a year would pay for individuals that work there. So we can answer any questions.
I guess just at this point, is there, Manager Mitchell, is there any particular additional information you'd like to have added by any of your partners here at this point?
No, I think Commissioner Cunningham hit on it. I think there's questions about the order, and I think there's GP graphic packaging. Sorry, graphic packaging can also provide any additional feedback on some of the things they've been doing with construction, the timeline on what the benefit is for what they've been doing for not only themselves, but also the community. I think the biggest change here that we're dealing with is that the state wants pretty much the city of Kalamazoo to say, okay, how many years? Understanding if you don't go the remaining years, you're going to be bumping this off for years out for another mayor and commission to come back and make a decision on the remaining following years as well, which I think this commission and this mayor and vice mayor should take credit for this expansion and growth of what's happening here with this project, and that we had pretty much a $600 million project come to this community that competed against multiple states to be here in Kalamazoo, and has also had a ripple effects on other aspects of our community for other redevelopment in that area.
Thank you, Manager Mitchell. I think folks here from either Director Baker or folks from graphic packaging, or even from Southwest Michigan First, heard Commissioner Cunningham's questions. So is there anyone that'd like to step forward and attempt to answer some of those things from your perspective?
Before you do, Mayor,
Yes, Commissioner Hess?
I just want to say that I believe that Aaron Wright's, the end of Aaron Wright's comments got cut off, and what he wanted to know, the chair of Environmental Concerns Committee, he wanted it to be in this conversation to make sure from the report from the MDHHS that we could find a definitive answer to the question, are the airborne emissions present in the north side and east side neighborhoods making residents sick? So we want to make sure that that report is brought forward when it's available.
Thank you, Commissioner Hess.
Your Honor.
Yes, Manager Ritzman.
Yeah, why don't we have Director Baker start around odors, and then we can turn it over to the graphic packaging folks if they want to make comments, and then do a Q&A after that.
Sounds good. Director Baker.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'm just going to kind of summarize some of the work that's transpired, some of the partnership between City Kalamazoo and graphic packaging. Starting back in 2018 with the creation of the Odor Task Force. The Odor Task Force is a membership collaboration, if you will, between the City of Kalamazoo, Department of Public Services, Graphic Packaging International, membership from Environmental Concerns Committee, the Kalamazoo County Environmental Health Advisory Committee, and a citizen representative. And really the goal of the Odor Task Force is to work on these odor issues and recommend engineering solutions to what are often very complex issues. Sometimes these are odors that may originate within the interceptor sewer system, odors that may originate within the wastewater treatment plant, or odors that may originate within the graphic packaging facility. And that can kind of be all, some, or none of those options as we go through this endeavor to provide these solutions. Kind of jumping through time, like a timeline, 2019 is when we installed the EnviroSuite odor monitoring system. There's been upgrades to that. We now we have 6 community odor sensors. 3 of those sensors have been in place since 2019. So that's capturing real-time data, and that's building a lot of information surrounding impacts to the community. All that information is being shared with multiple state regulatory agencies, to include Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, EGLE, the Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes and Energy, as well as EPA. There's been many odor studies, both commissioned by City Kalamazoo and graphic packaging. There was, beginning last year, the requirement for quarterly odor mitigation progress reports. There have been 3 progress reports to date. That was January 19th, 2021, April 19th, 2021, and July 19th, 2021. There'll be another quarterly odor update in October. Those all the documentation for those meetings are part of your packets, and that you can access those, or the public can access those through the methods that they currently use. The 4 carbon scrubber units at the wastewater plant, that's a decentralized air treatment system that really looks to scrub the air at the unit process that it's at. And those are all completed and operational as of July here at the wastewater plant. The City Commission on July 19th approved a contract with the biofilter equipment vendor. So that set the stage to get those materials procured and on their way. Lead time for that scope of equipment is about 26 weeks. So we're delivering this project essentially using a design build method, so that we went ahead and ordered that stuff in July. You'll see contracts that will be coming before you for things such as site work, foundation, excavation, and everything to put that together. So we're kind of building it as we go, as opposed to designing everything and then bidding that out as one contract. So in terms of project timeline, we're able to accelerate the delivery schedule of that timeline. So we're able to get the biofilter here and constructed. So there will be upcoming contracts that will come before the commission late this year and into next year. And we would expect biofilter construction to occur into 2022 and into 2023. We also have a smart sewers pilot program. What that does is that's the smart manhole covers that are out in the system. There's a whole host of things those are doing. But what's important in this conversation is that they're monitoring hydrogen sulfide levels now in the sewer system itself. The goal of that, now we've got the biofilter plans that's going to draw air from the connected sewer network and treat that. And then monitoring the hydrogen sulfide gas within the sewer system itself is going to give us the opportunity to track that and be able to understand what that those relationships are in response to industrial flows throughout the city. And so if we can start to make correlations between those, we can start working with industrial users to, under a positive situation to help manage those flows. We have continuing plans to increase our EnviroSuite footprint and community sensors throughout 22 and 23. We plan to add, again, 3 more sensors. It's our goal to step up to 9 sensors within the community. And then, our long-term monitoring, we've got EnviroSuite sensors in place since 2019. We're continuing to expand that. We have the use of the odor task force to respond to and identify acute increases or local areas of concern or emerging trends. And we want to continue to identify fugitive odor sources and respond with corrective action. So this has been a process. This is the solution is not built, done, and in place yet. We're seeing incremental improvement with the carbon scrubbers going online, the procurement process underway, and with the biofilter odor system. And we're continuing to use the smart sewer program, the EnviroSuite system, to track what that progress looks like and track what the community results are out there. So I've kind of really touched on some high level points. I can go into any specific detail through questions. And again, there's a tremendous amount of material that's out there that is provided. And so with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Director Baker. So I just want to say just one thing quickly here, because even though it was somewhat condensed, you definitely get into some details, which is important. That's where you work. I appreciate that. You are representing the city and the Public Services Department and the efforts related to our wastewater treatment plant and the collection system for that. So if you were to identify just in a few short sentences, what is your goal? What is the intended outcome for all this work you're describing in terms of investigation and design and engineering and installation? What is the goal that you're shooting for?
Thank you, Your Honor. Our engineering goal is annual reduction year over year in the community odor. And so we're measuring that through EnviroSuite sensors. We've got our 2019 to 2020 baseline, if you will, so that the measured levels of hydrogen sulfide within the community, it's our goal year over year to reduce those. And our goal to reduce those is implemented through the capital improvement project, through the implementation of the carbon scrubber unit, and through the future implementation of that biofilter. So that's the goal as it stands: reduce that community background odor. So that is the standing goal. And as we work towards that goal, we still want to be respective of any changes that are occurring. So if we have an acute situation, so if we have a day where our sensors are measuring more odor than they did, say, the day previously or last week, we want to continue to utilize the odor task force to investigate and identify the source and cause of that odor, and then implement an engineering solution to that. So that as we continue into the future, we're measured and held accountable to that goal. And we want to continue to remain flexible and continue to stay in the fight to make sure that we're continuing to protect the community our neighbors here next to the wastewater plant.
Thank you, Director Baker. Are there any direct questions for Director Baker at this time from Commission?
Just one.
Commissioner Hess, yeah.
Director Baker, do you know when that MDHSS report is supposed to be coming out?
Thank you, Commissioner. I do not have a known date at this time when that report is coming out. I do know that the city has been working with members of the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, as well as the federal agency, the Agency for Disease, Toxic Substances and Disease Registry, ATSDR. We've shared all data with those agencies. We've shared all reports. And if you remember back to last fall, we were going out and actually using the contractor to collect EPA validated air samples that could be upheld in terms of what environmental regulatory agencies would require of odor samples. So that work is very intense and in depth. And I would imagine that it's going to be some time as those agencies continue to work through that. That being said, my understanding is that the agencies, when they're to the point where they're able to communicate with the public, that will all be in a public forum, and all that information will be shared publicly.
Thank you, Director Baker. Any other direct questions for Director Baker at this time? Yes, Commissioner Urban.
Yes, thank you. Director Baker, I looked over the plots of the data that were in the packet from the various odor sensors, and I got the general impression that in the period of January, February, there seemed to be beginning a marked decrease in the odor readings from a number of the sensors, although occasionally there would be a spike. So it's hard to make a simple statement conclusion. But I just wanted to ask you, in general, is it correct for me to say that in general the odor detectors are showing the effect of installing those carbon scrubbers, or is that just a fortuitous coincidence?
Thank you, Commissioner, and certainly we appreciate the in-depth observations, and we're kind of looking at that data ourselves and asking our own questions. I think at this time it's probably too early to tell if exactly what the data trend is doing. I would kind of allude that to taking a look over, say, 1 day or 1 week at the stock market and trying to provide an answer to whether or not it's going up or down. Yeah. Given the nature of the variability in process waste, both at the wastewater treatment plant and overall many changes that are occurring all throughout, I think we need more data points. I think we need to go further out in time before we can say that there has been a marked improvement. So it's going to continue. The work is going to continue. We'll be making a big step in the right direction with the biofilter. There have been a lot of implementation changes. If you go into the detail, the quarterly odor reports and read through the odor task force meeting minutes, where we get into some of the detail of what graphic packaging is doing, what the city wastewater plant is doing. You'll see there's other process chemical changes, chemical additions, changes to hauling schedules, residual management schedules, things like that. And so there is a team effort here, and there's a concerted effort to really get after a lot of these odors. And I think we're starting to see some success there. I think some anecdotal observations might say that we're doing better, but there's a lot of work that has yet to continue, and just a few months of data aren't enough yet for us to say that it is moving one way or the other. So I guess to conclude, I would continue to leave that open.
Well, thank you for your thorough and candid answer. I like the way you express yourself.
Any other questions for Director Baker at this time? Well, then I would like to ask everybody's patience here. I would really like to have a response here from whoever is intending to be a spokesperson for graphic packaging, just to talk about your work, what you're committed to, what's your intended outcome, and how are you going about, getting to that outcome?
Thank you. This is Andy Johnson. I'm Vice President of Government Affairs and Sustainability at Graphic Packaging. I'm going to serve as somewhat of a moderator with our team so we can answer the questions and get the experts to respond. So once again, thanks Mayor Anderson, Vice Mayor Griffin, and commissioners for this opportunity, and also considering the extension on the tax abatement. Really like to just give a brief opening statement, and I'd like to continue on the odor discussion. And I'll turn it over to Tom Olstead, who's the manager of the Kalamazoo Mill. We're firmly committed to the community. Our investment was thoroughly thought through. It's the right place for us to expand and invest in that new paper machine. And we've enjoyed the collaboration that we've had with the city, and we looked at to continue that into the future. We think there's been some very good, significant progress. We have created a website for the community to check in on our program. It's called KalamazooRecycles.com. And that has information, we blog post on there and provide new content so folks can see the latest in the work that we're doing, not only on odor, but in other areas too, and with the company, because it's pretty comprehensive what we're doing there in the community. And then we also will post results of our odor investigations, the other plans that are put together. They are on other locations, but we centralized them all in one location so that it's easy for folks to find the information and read up on it. We do try with blog posting to put it in layman's terms so that it's summarized, so it's a little easier to digest. And so we welcome everybody's attention to that, and certainly feedback is very, very helpful. I mentioned Tom Olstead, he's on the call, and I'm going to turn it over to him in just a second. When we're done with the order, we'd like to give you an update on the project itself, and that will be led by Rusty Miller, who is our Senior Vice President of Engineering and leading the project. So with that, if I could get Tom to unmute and do his video, great.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, Andy, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you tonight. My name's Tom Olstead, and I am the mill manager at the Kalamazoo Mill. Director Baker did a great job describing the odor task force and all the work that we do together. And it's really been a pleasure to get to know all the folks on the odor task force and have this collaborative type environment that we can work together. We did learn from the city wastewater treatment plant the opportunity to use the EnviroSuite sensors. And so we purchased, as Aaron Wright said in the public comments, and Aaron Wright participates in our odor task force meeting virtually every time. We purchased 10 of these units in September of 2020. We liked the fact that we were getting real-time data, and then purchased 6 more in March of 2021. So we have 16 sensors on site monitoring H2S levels to help us understand any kind of issues that might come up within the plant. It also helps us to see what kind of ambient H2S levels there might be within the community that pass through our property, which is interesting. Sometimes we'll see data that comes from the west and crosses through the property, and you'll already see minor levels of H2S because it's sort of part of nature, so to speak. So we have these 16 sensors. We've had them now 10 for about a year. And 6 more for about 6 months. Last year, third quarter, we brought in a third-party consultant that specializes in the pulp and paper industry to really help us understand odor generation in a paper mill, what kinds of programs are out there in the industry that can help us better manage our systems. And that third-party consultant gave us some ideas that we implemented late last year. Those were around chemical changes, chemical applications to basically create a more aerobic environment, a better environment for H2S not to form as easily. And so from that third-party consultant, we've made some of those changes. They've been very effective. We've been very pleased with the results of those changes. Again, this year, we brought in another third-party consultant to look at any kind of engineering solutions beyond the chemical applications that we've made. We've been partnering with Eagle to look at our nuisance minimization plan for odors to make sure that we're working together to really work through this issue and be a good corporate citizen for the community. And that third-party consultant has been evaluating if there are any engineering solutions that we should pursue. We are working through the draft of that report as we speak and plan to present that to Eagle later on this month or early October. So I don't want to be redundant with what Director Baker said, because he's really described the odor task force meetings quite well. Those minutes are available for the city and city commissioners. I encourage you to read those and see if there's any information there that you might have questions about. But I'll conclude by saying the relationship that we have with the odor task force is very collaborative, very positive, and we're all working together to create our space in the city of Kalamazoo as a spot where people can drive by and not know that either one of us are there. That's really all I had, Andy. Any questions for me?
Any questions from commissioners for Mr. Olsted? I don't see any at this time.
Okay, if it pleases you, I'd like to introduce Rusty Miller. He can give an update on the project, which is coming close to commercialization time. So we're very excited. Rusty.
I'd thank you for the opportunity to kind of talk about where we are in our exciting project this evening. We are, as Andy mentioned, on track for completion by the end of the year. We'll have invested again over $600 million, adding a third clay-coated recycled board machine to our property, making us and really Kalamazoo one of the leaders in recycling in North America, recycling over 3,000 tons a day of fiber that would likely otherwise be going into the landfill. So we currently have about 1,200 contractors working each day, and you can imagine just what they're bringing to the community by their living expenses, what they're spending here, living here, eating here, and staying in Kalamazoo. So they've been so we have very large contingent, and we expect to be completed by the end of the year. So we're looking forward to it.
Thank you.
Sorry. I just wondered if there's any questions for Rusty on the project itself. Great. I just want to highlight a couple of things. We are over 90% of the contractors are Michigan residents. So we're getting folks locally. It's a struggle because Michigan, the state, is very busy, and getting the contractors is difficult. So we are managing through that process. So that is a very powerful thing for us. Is just to get local talent, and we really appreciate the work that they do. The other thing on this is just to remind everybody that this project over the course of a little over 2 years is going to infuse, we estimate, about $2 billion into the local economy with all those folks coming in and living in dining and things like that. So I think a powerful thing for the community here, and we're glad to be a part of that. So I just want to mention, Tom said, I think the most operative statement, which is we want folks to drive by and not notice us, other than it will look new, it will look nice. And so visually they're going to see something that looks nice. We just want the discussions around order to be a forgotten and distant memory. And we're working hard with everybody to get that accomplished.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Jill, is there anything that you wanted to add in particular?
Yeah, just very quickly. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Commissioners. I just want to add on top of everything that you've heard tonight, with this investment and some of the other recent investments that the company has made, they've really been working hard to make improvements to their processes and operations by adding these new technology and really adding additional sustainable practices. I mean, when you think about it with what the company does, they are a fully sustainable company from a recycle standpoint. Also, how much work they've been doing in partnership with the city to address the concerns raised by the citizens. And I think it's also really important for us to take notice of the abandoned industrial sites surrounding this property that they have led in terms of the cleanup and removal of buildings and cleaning up of the properties in those surrounding areas when you do drive by. And I know in the last, month, they've taken down a couple more of their own buildings that were old and needed some updating to really clean up that site and make it a world-class facility to today's standards, not living with the 100-year-old facilities that they have been in. They're also very involved in the K through 12 as well as higher education system in our community, not only helping to design some of those educational programs for our future, but hiring those people once they graduate from high school and from college. So again, they're part of our ecosystem when it comes to workforce of building our community. And then finally, I think one of the things to highlight, while this is not a done deal yet, we're still working on it at the federal and state level, but this project really was a project that kind of brought back to life the whole discussion about the US 131 interchange and pulling those trucks out of the neighborhood in downtown Kalamazoo, not only from Graphic Packaging, but from all of the other industrial businesses in the North Side neighborhood. This project has come to life. There has been, this summer, MDOT has been going through and redesigning and doing an engineering study, and they will have basically a ready to build engineering plan once they get through this process. There also has been some dollars set aside at the federal level and at the state level that we're hoping are finalized here yet this fall, so that we can potentially begin construction on that interchange. Again, but in my 25 years of doing economic development in Kalamazoo, this is the closest we've been. So we're really excited about that. And that's been a partnership with the city, with the company, with MDOT and the surrounding jurisdictions. So thank you, and I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Bland. I appreciate that very much. Are there any questions from commissioners for any one of our presenters? Commissioner Cunningham.
Yeah, this one is strictly for graphics packaging. Thank you all to everyone who presented and spoke on this subject. To graphics, outside of the tax abatement, is there anything else that the city administration, city commission, and or the citizens of the city of Kalamazoo can do to assist you guys in this transition? I know you kind of mentioned the hiring of talent, but if you can give any additional guidance on what we can do to really support you guys, because again, I think you guys are a gem in our community. And we want to make sure that you're as successful as possible. And I know that a lot of these leaders here right now can make connections, whether it be simple phone calls or simple ask, I'm quite sure.
Great, thank you, Commissioner Cunningham. There'd be a couple things. We really appreciate the support we've had up to this point. The keys for us going forward with a population of workers that are nearing retirement is to be able to replace them. And we're working with the Southwest Michigan First in the school system to be able to get that next generation of mill workers. What we're putting in is advanced technology. So this isn't your typical old paper mill. This is a newer one, new technology that takes higher skill sets. So we just need a pipeline of talent that not only can operate within a mill system, but the other types of jobs like welders, electricians, those are the types of jobs that we're going to need going forward. And you folks have been attracting a lot of companies, and the demand for talent is really high there. So we just need to continue to look at the school system. How can we keep elevating the kids within the school system? And we certainly are very happy to be a part of that process. There's some other minor things we're working on with the city, and they've been great to work with, and we'll continue working with them on that. But that's kind of the primary thing as we go forward. One last ask is please recycle your paper. We need it. Get everybody else in the community recycling it, because we're going to consume a lot of it going forward here, making grocery boxes. So.
Thank you, sir. Other questions, Commissioner Cunningham? Commissioner Pradel.
Thank you, Mayor. This is Commissioner Chris Pradel. This might be a question more for Andrew or Tom, if you wouldn't mind. I remember reading somewhere that a lot of the material that you're sourcing for the plant is intended to come from local sources. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Tom, do you want to address where our recovered fibers come from?
Sure, I can try to do that. And Rusty, feel free to jump in here if there's any additional information you want to provide. But 3,000 tons of paper per day recycled is a large amount. Obviously, we have basically three kinds of recycled paper, if you will. We have old corrugated containers. So if you think about the recycled material that might come from a grocery store or a big box store, that's your old corrugated container. We use old newsprint. So newsprint and either news that has been collected curbside, or news that's come from maybe overissue where they've created too many newspapers that they didn't sell, and we recycle that. We also recycle lightly printed and heavy printed grades. So some of your office papers, some of your book papers, things like that we get. We also recycle, as you can imagine, our own material that comes back from our various plants around the Midwest. That will be some of their clippings or some of their off-grade material that we'll bring back and use as our recycled material. So the recycled fiber business is very competitive in many ways because it is such a good story to tell about recycling that a lot of folks want to do it. And so our breadbasket of fiber is really the upper Midwest, from Chicago through Detroit, down to central Ohio and in central Indiana. And so we're basically bringing fiber in from a radius of about 300 to 500 miles. And so if you think about all of that material and keeping it out of the landfill and keeping it in the local economy, that's really where it comes from, is within that radius. And those are our major fiber sources. Commissioner Pradel, did that give you a little bit of flavor to where we get it from and what kinds of fiber we use?
Yeah, thanks, Tom. And I just had one other question for you. I heard you mention some partnerships with the school, with Southwest Michigan First, and you mentioned the schools. I wasn't sure if in your reference to the schools you were talking about also including higher education, but for those who don't know, Western Michigan University has one of the best chemical and paper engineering programs, probably in the country, if not the world, including they also have a paper tech foundation, which is pretty unique as well. And so I was just kind of curious, are you guys partnered with them? Are we employing people from that program? I was curious if I could, hear a little bit more about that. That's definitely a point of pride for us, I think, as a community. And a lot of people don't realize we have a lot of that talent coming right out of Western Michigan University.
That's
yes,
right.
and it's and we're very active with them, and our CEO is a graduate from that school. So so we have very strong ties with them and enjoy a great relationship. So it's it's really from K through post. It's about a talent pipeline that we have to work on. It. One of the challenges one has is today's graduates are not really looking to go into manufacturing, and so a paper mill doesn't seem as high tech as going to some of the other organizations, and even then just getting them into a manufacturing. They're really good jobs. They're a great career, a great place to raise a family. And the work we've been doing, have been working with Southwest Michigan First about their anchor strategy, really getting families to come to the area where you anchor them down and then hopefully keep their children there in the community. That's going to be very helpful for us. So just a stat so everybody understands, as of January 1st, 2019, 40% of our employees were retirement eligible. Okay, so 40%. So that means they're 55 or older and looking for that next chapter, right? And so there isn't a day that I don't see someone announcement for retirement. So it's on the top of our mind at all times. that we have to continue to find new talent to come up through the ranks within our organization.
Yep. Commissioner Prada, got another comment on our involvement with Western. It's been well over 20 years working with them on the pulp and paper program, hiring students from that. I would guess that we're there, have to be the largest employer out of the program. One specific location anyhow. We have many alumni have come through our doors and they're still employed at the mill. We worked with them in recruiting students. As started probably 10 years ago when the enrollment was down in the program, and so we help host high school students that come in for a weekend to be look at the program. So yeah, very much involved and heavy supporter of the engineering, pulp and paper engineering program.
To answer your questions, Commissioner Prale. Commissioner Knott.
It's just as a question related to tonight's purpose. We're supposed to be setting a resolution for a public hearing, and I feel like we've gotten into the public hearing. So I'm asking that we save some of this for in 2 weeks when the public is actually participating in the advertised and scheduled public hearing.
Good point, Commissioner Knott. So this may be a prequel for our actual hearing. And I know there was a comment about the hearing. Our hearings are generally on the evenings generally, I think always on the evenings when our regular business meetings are. So that's why it's set for the 20th, a Monday, at our regular business meeting at 7 o'clock rather than some other time like a weekend. So that is when the actual, we're setting the date for the hearing. That's the action we're taking tonight. Appreciate that, Commissioner Knott. Anything else for the good of the order on this action this evening? Commissioner Cunningham.
This one is to Director Baker. Am I correct that we have currently brought online the online, I'm not even sure the right terminology to use, where we can report odors in the community? Has that online project came online yet?
That's correct, Commissioner. We have a online reporting tool so that you no longer have to place a call to 311 to make an odor observation. That's an online tool. I believe that link is in. It may be in the odor progress report or update. If that's not, we can share that. That's www.kalamazooCity.org/odor observation. And you can, basically there's a map. You drag a pin on the map of where you're smelling or observing an odor, and then you're asked some questions and to rate that odor in terms of intensity and strength, and then the best of your ability to characterize what that smells like. Is that a sweet or is it a foul odor? And that is logged into our system. That goes into the EnviroSuite system, and that helps us with that continued tracking, evaluation, and analysis of where these odors are generating, and what some of the solutions are. That will really help us immensely for that work. So I would encourage members of the public, if you are observing an odor, experiencing an odor, that you fill out that observation form.
Thank you, Director Baker. Is that another question, Commissioner Cunningham?
Can we share that information with the East Side and the North Side Neighborhood Association so that they can be readily accessible to that information?
Certainly we could. I'm not an IT guy myself, but there maybe is a way for us to link one of those websites to maybe the neighborhood website or something like that.
Any other questions or comments on this topic? So germane to what Commissioner Knott noted, it was that our action tonight is setting the date for the public hearing. And so I guess a friendly warning for all those who were I'm grateful attended tonight is that we may need to be present again like this when we actually have our hearing on the 20th. But I also want to remind people, and maybe Clerk Borland, you can verify this for me, is that these meetings are recorded and this portion of the meeting will be available for people to observe as well. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And how do people go about finding a meeting and being able to watch it at their own convenience?
The city's meetings are available on YouTube. The city has a YouTube channel. So when you go to YouTube, in the search box, type City of Kalamazoo, and our channel will come up, and you click on videos and you can find this meeting and a lot of others as well.
Okay, thank you, Clerk Borling. So commissioners, at this point, the action for tonight is just the adoption of a resolution setting a public hearing on September 20th, which will be at our regular business meeting at 7 o'clock, to consider a request from Graphic Packaging International LLC to extend a PA 198 industrial facilities tax exemption certificate for 11 years for real property valued at $191 million. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion made by Commissioner Cunningham. Is there support? Supported by, so a hand, I heard you, Commissioner Hess, so I saw your hand, Commissioner Urban. Sorry.
Okay, you got it covered.
Okay. Any discussion on the motion to set the hearing? Seeing none, Clerk Borland, could you please, oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Cunningham.
Thank you, Mayor. So I haven't taken a stance yet on approving this item as is. The previous resolution that we passed was at 1, 2, 3, 6 years approval. The previous recommendation from the city was a 6 and 12-year approval. And so for me, just going based upon their recommendation from last year, I'm not saying that we shouldn't change from the 1, 2, 3, 6, because I see the work that's being done. I see the movement and the intent and the energy behind it. But I'm not sure that I'm at the point where I want to grant just a 11-year approval without having at least one more point of checking in. And granted, I will not be on the commission during the time of whenever that next group comes up to speak. But if I will ask my colleagues, I'm sure one of you probably will, that you check back in with me to make sure that I'm in attendance for that meeting to say my feelings, my words in regards to it. We have an amazing organization in graphics packaging that has been partnering with the city of Kalamazoo on levels that we haven't seen in a lot of different organizations. And so I speak highly of them. So this doesn't speak against, any of the leadership that I see here now before me. But as they just stated, they have a good 50% that might be leaving in the next 5-10 years. But with that being said, I just wanted to at least, put my feelings out there, and that, probably in the next meeting, I may have solidified a little more on my stance, and it may be, just improving 11 years. But as of right now, I feel like checking in at least one more time is definitely prudent. The other piece that I didn't ask as a question tonight that I will be asking in our next meeting is around health studies. What is it that we as a city commission and as a city administration are doing to check in on, are there any health impacts? When I think about the origination of this, long before anybody who was serving, anybody who has been working, practically before most of the people on this call right now was born, a lot of these issues have been going on for a very long time. And so when we look to address them, there's the who, what, where, when, and why. And so I naturally think of, what's the smell? Where is it coming from? How do we get rid of it? And then probably just as important as those things is was there some impact on us as a community? And again, it's something that we work together collaboratively on. And those are just some answers that, if there's something there, then we address it. If there's nothing there, then, at the end of the day, I think that builds the trust and the rapport with our community that's necessary and needed. And unfortunately, it's just something that we've, as a community, been dealing with, as a piece of this industry that's been in our community for a very long time. So to all those who presented today, I am honored that you guys chose Kalamazoo. Again, I hope that you guys feel as passionate about this community as I do. And so I continue to work with you guys collaboratively. And again, I want to highlight this, and I probably highlighted it in most meetings that you guys came to the table at. Their hiring practices. I can't think of too many other organizations in the community who provide high-paying wages to individuals who have backgrounds that may be questionable. And so I'm very appreciative of that. I also, am very familiar with them hiring individuals just in general from our community. And so I acknowledge that, and I'm honored to have you guys as an organization doing the work, the specific work that you guys do in our community.
Thank you, Commissioner Cunningham. So to Commissioner Cunningham's question here, what as we set a hearing, what will be the parameters available to us if there are some suggestions about something other than 11 years? Is that something that can be done in a hearing, Attorney Robinson, or I don't know if, not sure if Manager Mitchell, you're still there. I mean, how will that function in terms of making that decision at the time of the hearing? I don't know who'd like to answer that.
Clyde Robinson, City Attorney. That's a good question, Mayor. The question is in terms of how often you want to keep going to the well. And we are restricted in terms of the reasons for asking the state to revoke a certificate. So the fact of the matter is the odor issue is not in the statute. There are other reasons. There are 4 or 5 reasons in the statute in which the city commission can request the state to revoke a certificate. And you're limited to those reasons in the statute. And it just to always say, well, we're going to give you a tax certificate for 2 years, but you have to come back. Then the maximum we can go is 12 years. I guess the question becomes is whether the state will let us keep stringing this out. Generally, you're looking at a 6-year term, and you can add an additional 6 years onto that, as opposed to breaking it up in smaller increments. That is something that we probably have to go to the state Department of Treasury and figure out what they are willing to let us do. Because this is, you're coloring outside the lines now, and it's something that the State Department of Treasury hasn't seen much of, if any. And so the question becomes, how willing are they to work with us on, again, perhaps conditions that are unrelated to the statutory conditions?
Thank you, Attorney Robinson. Well, if there's any information that would be informative for us at a hearing, I would encourage us to try to gather that information together now. Manager Mitchell, is there anything you wanted to add to that?
No, I think Clyde, Attorney Robinson, pretty much cleared that up, is that these are 2 separate issues and that we can't really blur them together in the sense of how we're approving the process. It gets a little sticky, like Attorney Robinson says, with the state. And so we want to try to keep these as separate as possible. And that's why Attorney Robinson is working with graphic packaging to put something in our, I put my paperwork away, our local agreement to assist us with that process of us locally working directly with graphic packaging on the order issue under our local agreement, which is agreement with them directly on how to collaborate on efforts that we're working locally on. And so we're looking at that component instead of putting all the eggs into the tax abatement component, because they really are 2 separate issues.
Thank you, Manager Mitchell. That's helpful. So we have a motion on the floor. Commissioner Cunningham.
Thank you, Antonio. I think you touched on one of the important pieces of it is that looking for that other form of putting it in writing in regards to our commitments to what we're going to do and how we're going to do it. And I think a piece of that is probably already kind of shown in the organizing of the organization that overlooks the task force. But again, the original to my colleagues, the original ask was for 6 and then 12. And so, to just jump to 11 because we don't want to do a 1, 2, 3, 6. I think it's something that we should be, tuning into. And I'm assuming that there's a reason why, the city's original ask is for a 6 and a 12. And as Clyde stated, I guess that, it could just be that was the normal ask in general. And so, that's what I'm stating is that, I believe we should have at least one more check-in between now and the end of the 11 years. And again, to Graphics Package, thank you for working with us through this. One thing I always acknowledge as a commissioner is we're always learning. Every issue, every situation, there's a million different things that are going on within the community at all times. And so every corner we turn around, there's something else that I'm learning. And so, yeah, maybe this isn't the best way to approach this conversation, but I think that it definitely gave us a platform as commissioners to have a deeper dialogue about something that has been, for lack of better terms, torturing our community for, years. And so, again, to my colleagues, I think if now is the time that we have to make an amendment, I would amend that we do, a 5-year check-in and then a 6-year check-in if that to equal the 12, the original ask of our city administration.
Other discussion? Commissioner Urban, I'm sorry.
If I may.
Attorney Robinson, go ahead.
The issue before the commission is to set a public hearing.
Yes.
Not necessarily parse out the wording of what's going to be considered in 2 weeks. I think Commissioner Cunningham's motion, number one, we need to look at, is that something that we can do? And if so, then you can address that at next week in the meeting in 2 weeks. I think you're jumping the gun in terms of laying out what you want to do, because we may have to undo it in 13 days. I suggest vote on the proposal to set the public hearing, and then once you get the information, you can figure out how you want to do it, whether it's a 5 and 6 or it's 11 or whatever it happens to be.
I was just going to, Commissioner Urban.
Well, it seems to me that what Commissioner Cunningham was suggesting was merely a suggestion of an alternative to an 11-year all at one shot thing that we could. I think if I could maybe rephrase what Commissioner Cunningham was asking for, it seems to me it'd be very helpful to make clear that in 2 weeks we're going to have a public hearing on granting 11-year extension or a 5-year extension followed by a 6-year extension. That's what the public hearing is on, not on odor control or anything else. It's really just, let's keep it down to the facts that we need to have to make that decision. That's what I want to have information on. And so far, even tonight, I didn't get a lot of just information on the issue, the factors that go into making a decision on that matter. So if to summarize, and Commissioner Cunningham, feel free to correct me, it'd be helpful next time to have that as a framework for our public hearing. And I'll just leave it go at that, so I don't over specify things at this early point.
Commissioner Cunningham.
Thank you, Mayor. Correct, Commissioner Urban. I think you hit the nail on the head. set all the other information aside, but how do we get clarity on what we can and cannot do? Because I'm hearing that, yeah, you can do it, but maybe we can't, and those things, and that should be answered. I hope that that type of information is answered by the time we have the next meeting. So yeah, I completely agree. That's the clarity that I'm looking for. And then I was also just stating my general feeling on what I think as a commission we should approve moving forward, so that all parties have an understanding of where I'm what I'm feeling or thinking before we even get to that meeting.
Thank you, Commissioner Cunningham. Any other discussion on the motion? Seeing none at this time, then Clerk Borland, will you please call the roll?
Commissioner Knott,
Yes.
Commissioner Pradle,
Yes.
Commissioner Urban,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Griffin,
Yes.
Mayor Anderson,
Yes.
Commissioner Cunningham,
Yes.
Commissioner Hess.
Yes.
Thank you, Commission. The motion passes. City Manager Ritzman.
Item G8 is the adoption of a resolution setting, I'm sorry,
G9.
gotta scroll, yeah. Item G9, adoption of a resolution setting forth the salaries of the city commission appointees, that being the city manager, city attorney, city clerk, and the internal auditor, effective September 7, 2021.
Thank you, Manager Ritzma. I believe, Vice Mayor, did you ask for this to be pulled from the consent agenda?
Yes, I did, Mayor Anderson. Thank you. I asked for this to be pulled from the consent agenda for 3 reasons. One, in the interest of transparency and accountability to the community. 2, I wanted to highlight the work that was put in by the subcommittee, which consisted of Commissioner Cunningham, Commissioner Hess, and Mayor Anderson, to update the process. And finally, I wanted to have the opportunity to explain why I did not leave an evaluation or leave any comments on that. So I'm not sure which order you would like to go in. I would probably starting with the 3 of you and the work that you put into the evaluation process. I know that has come up at some of our other commission meetings.
So, yeah, I appreciate that. Did you, go ahead, you have the floor. Do you want to expand on those things, Vice Mayor? Or?
Oh, Commissioner Cunningham, were you, well, I can't expand on what the work that you all did, but
sure.
If you didn't,
right.
If somebody want to expand on that.
Yeah, Commissioner Hess or Commissioner Cunningham, would you like to say anything more about that work we've been doing? Commissioner Cunningham.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll keep it brief. Again, I've had the honor to work with my colleagues and city staff to really revamp kind of our evaluation process for our appointees. And, I think that we didn't really have good policy and process in place before to tie together our evaluations and even those the pay raises that our appointees received. And so now we're nothing is solidified, but we have some strong bones in place as it pertains to evaluations, separate evaluations for each appointee, so that it really applies to what they're doing, what they're trying to do, so that we can have accurate data long term, that we can work together congruently on. And then the other piece is, how do we utilize that evaluation to get a better understanding of, where we should increase and or, not increase as it pertains to pay. And so, again, my colleagues and city staff have been gracious enough to tolerate me on a lot of it. And so I just want to give a appreciation to all 3, Commissioner Hess, Mayor Anderson, and is it Director Dusek? Is that the correct
Shelley,
HR manager? Just Shelley Doucet. Thank you for, again, tolerating me on a lot of this process, but there should be a presentation probably within the next month to City Commission on some recommendations out of this body to get a better streamlined approach to our evaluation of all our appointees, and then B, get a better process in place to get an understanding of, who, what, where, when, and why as it pertains to pay raises. And then again, a part of that evaluation thing, that tool that we're looking into is how do we not only do an evaluation once a year, but how do we check in at different points to make sure that we're, correctly gauging the temperature of our appointees throughout the year. So thank you for giving me a chance to speak to that. And I'm sure you guys probably have a few other things to add in.
So, yeah, Commissioner Hess, go ahead.
Yeah, I would like to express my gratitude to the Human Resources Department and all of their expertise with all employee evaluations. And that this process does need to be streamlined. Commissioner Cunningham is correct. It needs to be streamlined. It needs to be brought into real time with real goals and being able for us to have those conversations on a regular basis with our appointees, rather than in September of the year following the year for which they are to be evaluated. So I would like, personally, I wanted to see a much more timely outcome for these evaluations. And as we move forward, I would hope that it would begin in the first half of the year.
Thank you, Commissioner Hess. Yeah, I appreciate working with the two of you. And thank you for recognizing that, Vice Mayor Griffin. I appreciate it. Did you want to go ahead and follow up on your other 2 points?
Sure. Well, the first point and the 2-point, I guess they kind of mesh together. Just the fact that we're having a conversation and not just having it on the consent agenda, I think is very important for the community to know. I don't think they probably have really an understanding of how drastic the changes that you all have made from what it used to be. Because of what Commissioner Cunningham lifted up, it wasn't ever presented in this way. And I think that it's important, if we're going to move forward and be transparent and accountable, not in just word, but in action, that we have these conversations so the community is clear on that. So that was that part. And I did want the opportunity just to share out with the community. I've had a chance to talk with City Manager Ritzma and a few of my colleagues just with respects to why I did not fill out an evaluation. And it was mostly because of the issues that I was having with the process in and of itself. And this does not in any way take away from the work and the efforts that Commissioner Cunningham, Commissioner Hess, and Mayor Anderson put in to really update our process. So I want to be clear on that. My concerns are that in the process of our evaluations, they're turned into our HR manager, whom she is a lovely person, great at her job, as Commissioner Cunningham has lifted up. So it's not about her as an individual. It's just she is hired by the city manager. And so that process just seems a little strange to me. Like we should have a third party evaluating that and not having our HR director responsible for our employee evaluations. And I have talked to City Manager Ritzma about this, and that's something that he very much understands and is very much open to in the future. As Commissioner Cunningham, Mayor Anderson, and Commissioner Hess have already lifted up, this is a work in progress. So, that point. The other point is that for as much progress as was made, I feel like one of the other steps is, I guess, for lack of better words, a 360 interview process. So for our appointees, We understand what they do in terms of our relationships with them as individuals and how they show up in space with us as commission. But I don't know how they show up in space with community. I don't know how they show up in space with their employees. And there's no way to track that. There's no way to gauge that. Therefore, there's no way for me to give a true evaluation of the appointees. And so I have just made it a point to always communicate with people directly and tell them the issues that I have so that they're clear on that. And I know other commissioners as well, whether it be praises or a critique or just a conversation, we have those regularly throughout the year, but a system in place to where that can happen. So those were my two concerns. Those are the reasons why I did not submit employee evaluations. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to share that out with the larger community.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I see Commissioner Cunningham, you put your hand up here. So at some point, we will make a motion. There'll be discussion on the motion. So, I'm just trying to gauge here when we're doing general comments and when we're talking about the motion and when is most appropriate for that. Attorney Robinson, you have any input on that?
No.
Okay. All right. So just reflective of that, I mean, this will be something that we are going to be asked to act on. Are there other sort of framing things we want to talk about relative to this, or do we want to go ahead and make the motion and then have discussion? Any general thinking about that, Commissioner Praedel?
Yeah, I just at some point, I just wanted to ask a question about what appeared in our packet. I don't know when you would like me to do that.
So I think it's appropriate, questions about the motion now, unless Commissioner Cunningham, did you have another thought about? No? Go ahead, Commissioner Praedel.
Yeah. So last night when I was going through our packet, I'm going through the pages and I'm getting to page, I think it's like 79, 80. And there's a spreadsheet, and it's the spreadsheet portion where it talks about comments that we made in the evaluation. And anybody who knows me in my role as commissioner knows that probably brevity is not one of my strong suits. So I was kind of surprised when I saw that there were kind of cherry picked comments that I had made. So when I compared them to the original submission that I sent to HR Director Shelley Dusick, I remember spending probably 2 or 3 hours just on Jim's evaluation alone. And so I guess my question is how did my responses get dissected, and how was it chosen which parts of my evaluation were going to be published to the community? Because, I'm not a person that's going to be, say something that I wouldn't want published in the public anyways, but the areas that I provided where I had growth areas that I wanted to make sure that were included in the evaluation that I thought were productive, comments or recommendations for each of the appointees, nowhere in that matrix does it show any of my, suggestions for improvement. So I guess my question is how it, I don't know, is it a situation where the full evaluation can't be provided because it's employment type thing, or is it a situation just because of saving space in the packet or whatever? But I guess I felt a little bit, I was a little frustrated, to be honest with you, because I put all that work into it to make sure that we could have, some productive praise and then growth for each person. And then, like I said, I just felt like it was kind of cherry picked in terms of what was presented to the public. So if I'm reading that from the public, I'm thinking, oh, Praedel just is given like mad props to everybody and, just putting, frosting on top of each little thing. And, like I said, I tried very intentionally to provide, some critical feedback as well for each person. So I don't know who could answer that or explain that at all.
So, Commissioner Praedel, I don't see Director Dusick that she's with us anymore this evening. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. But I guess maybe having been through this a few times, maybe I can help a little bit. I mean, generally, and this will continue in some fashion, but generally, what happens is there are, as everyone's here is well aware, there are literally only 5 folks who report directly to the city commission. So we don't evaluate the chief, we just evaluate the appointees, the manager, the city attorney, the clerk, internal auditor, and assessor. And we don't have, we have a contractual relationship with our assessor now. So that takes it down to 4 that are direct reports to this city commission. Generally, I mean, the idea is that all, the commission fills out an evaluation form based on whatever, is in place at that time, that tool. And a portion of that is the comments, like you're talking about, Commissioner Pradel, and a portion of that is a rating system, a numeric rating system. And that numeric rating system, results in a composite score. So in terms of having the HR director involved, there should be no issue. I mean, granted, I'm sensitive to the idea that probably someone else should do it, but that would be purely an adding and division task for the HR director. What's all the scores, add them up, divide it, and you end up with a point score. So that piece is, pretty much cut and dried. The comment portion that would come from anybody, all that information is available. It all can be FOIA'd, it's public, and it oftentimes, press and other folks do ask for those full evaluations, including all those comments. So that's, relatively standard practice and will continue to be that way. So that all said, then what generally occurs is that I would say about 80% of the Kalamazoo, City of Kalamazoo team are in bargaining units, and they have their salary increases and other benefits that are negotiated in contracts. So it is a portion of the city team described as the NBUs, the non-bargaining unit folks, who don't participate in that contractual relationship, which locks that all in for a period of years. So there is, within the parameters of the budget, what happens is that numeric score gets translated into a raise percentage, which generally speaking then is, reflective of the raises that anybody in that non-bargaining unit category, including our appointees, would fall into. So, you get a certain score, it's a 2.9 or a 3.3, that translates, into a raise that is, kind of this is all the practice as it has been, that translates into some kind of a raise. This is outside of things that we've done where we've asked, for comparative analysis and maybe made some adjustments on salaries related to pay for like positions in similar sized communities, that kind of thing. So that tool is what this subcommittee, Commissioner Hess, Commissioner Cunningham, have been working on, is trying to improve that evaluation tool. And then how we want to manage that and how we should do it, as Vice Mayor Griffin suggested. Is this something we should do outside of our in-house staff, so to speak? So I don't know if that helps frame all that. I mean, that's how we've got to this point at this late date in the year relative to what is being proposed. It's those scores which were aggregated out of the evaluations that were received, and which has resulted in those scores. In addition, and I don't know if city manager, you want to talk about this, but the city manager, even though the scores would have, in the standard practice, offered a specific raise amount for the city manager has requested to not receive that raise. And that was part of our package also. So even though we're talking about it here in the resolution setting forth the salaries, there's a specific request from the city manager to, not accept that at this point, as far as that recommendation. So I don't know if that helps at all in terms of setting the stage for this, but other things that I could be helpful.
Mayor, I think that Commissioner Pradel was just asking, I think he wanted it to be clear that there was more substance to these reports than what was reflected in the packet
Right.
that the public saw. And yes, we all, those of us who did it probably did put a lot of time and effort into making sure that those comments reflected our experience with each appointee.
Sorry if I missed that, Commissioner Hess. So yeah, that's what I was trying to get to. And I don't think there's any particular reason we should make folks FOIA it. It is public information, Commissioner Cradle. So, I mean, it certainly is available, even though it's not available, in its full form in this packet. And I don't know how it got edited. And perhaps that was absent Director Dusek's input right now. I'm not sure if anyone has any more information about that, but
I believe, though, that each appointee probably received the full comments from everyone. Is that correct, Manager Itzma?
I am assuming so. I've separated myself from the process. So what I would recommend is the mayor go directly with Director Dusek and get clarity around this. Just so, there's that separation between me and the process and that the commission's going through.
Vice Mayor Griffin.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Anderson, and thank you, City Manager Ritzma, for speaking to that separation. And thank you, Commissioner Cradle, for lifting that up. I have not had conversations with any of you about these evaluations. And so I think what we're finding, at least these are my feelings here, the evaluations are the responsibility of the commission. And we are relying way too heavily on our appointees' involvement in these evaluations. There's no reason why Commissioner Cradle's comments are not clearly, and everyone's comments are not clearly presented in the public packet. But because of the process now, he would have to go to City Manager Ritzma to ask HR Director. That should be completely cut out. And from now on, and I think there should be a correction. Clerk Borling, if you're able to do that, I think it is worth, in the sense of transparency, it should not have to be FOIA'd. If the comments, they need to be reflective of what was actually submitted. And if there is a way to, in our next packet, have an addendum and have all of those comments be present, but that needs to happen. And we can't be, how are we clear on what comments? How do we know if all the comments were actually presented?
Commissioner Cradle.
Yeah. I'm not trying to say this to tear anybody down or, make claim that anything nefarious happened here. That's not what I'm trying to say at all. My general sense is that the increase the 3% increase that individuals in item on the agenda are receiving are based on the scale, like you were describing, like the Likert scale, where there's the average. So that for that purposes of what we're voting on tonight, the comments are kind of a moot point, right? But what bothers me is that if that's the case, we shouldn't have put any comments in it at all. And, or we should have provided all of them. And then if we wanted to abbreviate what people said, then when we should have been given an opportunity as commissioners to say, if you wanted me to boil down what I really wanted to say, here's what I would want to say for this appointee. I shouldn't have to be sitting at 10:30 at night reading through our packet and discover that basically somebody without my control got to cherry pick what the public thinks that I think about the people who are carrying out the business of the city that we appointed. That's what I have the issue with. And, I don't want to be edited, I guess is my point. If I had something to say in the evaluation and we're going to even provide a piece of it, I want to make sure the public gets the whole piece of it or nothing, and that obviously the right decision is that everybody gets everything. So anyways, that's all the point I was trying to make. I think this is more just maybe just a piece of feedback that I'm trying to offer. So maybe in the future, this doesn't happen again, so we don't get into this kind of situation. But, like I say that, I mean, I could try to look at a comparison, but those comments probably represent 10% of everything I wrote, if that.
Commissioner Cunningham.
And I'm in communication with Director Ducek. Comments were inserted to support ratings. All other comments are noted as well on the evals. The comments were not supposed to be a part of the packet, only the rating sheet. And that was her statements. But I agree. If it's providing that type of uncertainty and that clarity has to be there. And again, that goes into that transparency piece that we've continuously tried to work with our team to provide. And again, I want to highlight something that I've been stating time and time again. We have to do what's right, even if it means taking a loss. And everything that we say ain't going to be perfect. And then we have to realize that, unfortunately, the City Commission does not have the luxury of going behind, and this is to Vice Mayor Griffin's point, we don't have the opportunity to collectively get together outside of this meeting. And so we have to say things in this forum. And it's uncomfortable. It's not always the best place to say things, but sometimes it's mandatory. And so with that being said, we have to rely on, information that's being provided to us to have a clear understanding. And so again, if I read those documents, then I would have felt that Commissioner Prado, those were his sentiments without FOIAing all of his documentation and or looking into the avals further. So yeah, I think we all kind of noted it, but I think I do understand the severity of that and the seriousness of it. And that's the reason why there should be a process and a policy behind all of it, so that, as a team, we've selected to say, hey, this is what's going to be provided. This is how it's going to be provided. And this is where, when, those type of things. So, yeah.
Thank you, Commissioner Cunningham. Commissioner Urban.
Yes. I'm unmuted this time. Good. Can you hear me?
Oh, yes. Loud and clear.
Great. Well, it seems to me that, are we going to hear in a month a report from this evaluation subcommittee? Is that what I heard earlier on?
Yes, we should be reporting definitely
Right, now,
before we're
important
gone.
Then that the issues that were raised this evening are dealt with in your report. And if you have to meet again to clarify all that, I'd like to see that there, because it's pretty clear to me that none of us want to have this happen again. And I would like to see something in the report that we're going to be getting ready to act on that shows the result of our discussion we've had this evening. Going forward, there's no point in pawing over the hurt feelings and the misunderstandings that have gone on in the past, but this sure shouldn't happen again. Now, this is the danger, though. If we have all these comments out in the public, we as commissioners are going to have to be a lot more careful about what we say, because now it's not just among people that we know well. It's going to go to a lot of people who are not so familiar with how government works, are unfamiliar with terminology, unfamiliar with processes and procedures, and it can raise a whole lot of other questions that could take us sideways for months. And that's probably why that's been done in the past. But that is the way you treat babies. You keep them from having information. If we're going to be becoming the kind of society that we were promised when the Declaration of Independence was signed, we're going to have to step up and be better informed and be more mature about how we handle information. So in the spirit of being mature and growing into the promise we gave ourselves as a country, we're going to have to be very responsible about what we say, and trusting that the public will be responsible in how it responds.
Thank you, Commissioner Urban. So just for clarity, correct me if I'm wrong, Attorney Robinson, but just for clarity, all this information has always been available to the public. Granted, Commissioner Urban, through a more, a multi-step process in the past that has been FOIA based, but it's all public. It is, none of this evaluation piece is ultimately not public. I think the discussion we've been having tonight is how to take that impediment away and make it more available and easier and more transparent, which is valuable. Your hand's still up, Commissioner Urban. And so that all said, we do have, and I guess I'm going to ask for a little clarity, because we do have a motion, which is adoption of a resolution setting forth the salaries of the city commission appointees, city manager, city attorney, city clerk, and internal auditor, effective today, September 7th, 2021. We cannot retroactively apply this. So it is only effective then as of our action. Just for some clarity on this, because the city manager has asked to not receive that increase, how is that reflected in our motion? Attorney
Robinson, I think, got cut out of this meeting. So okay. I can answer that, Mayor. So the salary reflected in the resolution is my current salary.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody want to make a motion to adopt that resolution?
So moved.
Made by Commissioner Cunningham. I'm going to say that support Commissioner Urban. Any further discussion on this resolution? Commissioner Pradel.
Sorry. Yeah, before we vote on it, I just wanted to say, I think it says a lot about the character of City Manager Ritzma, for his decision to not accept any of the increase in this vote. But I also, that doesn't say, that we're not perfect. City government isn't going to be perfect because humans aren't perfect. And there are a lot of really great, fantastic things that occurred this last year in the city. I think I continue to be very proud of the work that our appointees do. I think that one of the things that is valuable about this evaluation process is, again, it gives us an opportunity to talk about the areas that we think that they shined, and then areas that we can do better. And so I hope we take that in a positive direction, including just the feedback I gave tonight. Again, not meaning to be, put anybody down or the process. So I just wanted to leave with that. And also I forgot to thank my colleagues for their work on the subcommittee as well. I did not mean to diminish their hard work and just because of the critique I had. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Pradel. Any other discussion on the motion? Yeah, Commissioner Cunningham.
I want to double down on Commissioner Pradel's statement. When I received a phone call from City Manager Ritzman stating that he was, taking this action, those are the moments we're looking for in our city consistently across a basin, across all staff. It's just taking responsibility. And, and that's not to say he had to, because if the evaluation said, and now mind you, let me provide some clarity from Commissioner Cunningham, and maybe I've just been missing in action, but I've had the opportunity to serve off and on the city commission since 2015, and I never personally knew that the evaluations was a tool to gauge whether our appointees received raises or not until this year. For one reason or another, inappropriate training. I'm quite sure I listened or would have perked my ears up had I knew that. But to see someone who decides to take less money, and we're not just talking about a decision he makes in a vacuum. You have a family to consider, and so for me, I'm honored that you took that stance to make this statement, and it's a statement in itself, and it doesn't need any further words, but to say, I'm here for this community, I'm here to do the work, and so I hope that I just want to acknowledge it in this moment that I'm appreciative of that action, and as a man, I look at that as saying as a very heavy decision to make. And I just wanted to make sure I elaborated on that for me personally, in front of the public's eye, on my appreciation, because that's a decision that ultimately we as a commission could have also came back and said, hey, X, Y, and Z, I know we approved it in this documentation, but we changed our mind, yada, yada, yada. We didn't have to do that because somebody decided to do it. And so thank you to you. Thank you to your family, because I'm sure all of them, you know, to one degree or another had a say or a thought in that process. So I'm truly appreciative.
Thank you, Commissioner Cunningham. Other discussion on the motion? Seeing none, Clerk Borling, will you please call the roll?
Commissioner Pradel,
Yes.
Commissioner Urban,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Griffin,
I'm abstaining from this vote.
Mayor Anderson,
Yes.
Commissioner Cunningham,
Yes.
Commissioner Hess,
Yes.
Commissioner Knott.
I'm also going to abstain.
Thank you, Commission. The motion passes. Next, we are to reports and legislation. Scott Borling, do you have a report?
Yes, I do, Your Honor. In the agenda packet for tonight, there is a city clerk's report with one item on it, and that is a note that I received a petition from residents of the North Side neighborhood asking for City Commission to address issues they're having with flooded basements. That's all.
Thank you, Clerk Borling. City Manager Ritzma.
No report this evening, Your Honor.
All right. And we have lost still. Wonder if our city attorney lost power at his house. All right. So
he lives right near Eric and me, so that shouldn't be an excuse.
He can't use that excuse. All right. So we're flying without that. Nothing then on that. So now we are down to commissioner comments. Commissioner Urban.
Well, I think I've said all I really need to say already this evening. This whole process of evaluations has truly been an embarrassment if looked at from the outside, and I'm sure hoping that after all of this time, we have a process going forward that the future commissions will honor, because this is something that is in the area of practice rather than in law, this kind of thing. So we have to be careful about whatever we ask the next commission to do in terms of evaluations. It's something that we can reasonably expect them to do and hold them accountable as in my case, as a private citizen. So we have to be careful about this. There's a lot of heat and a lot of frustration about this, but we have to get it right when we're all done. That's all for now.
Thank you, Commissioner Urban. Commissioner Cunningham.
First, I want to say thank you to my colleagues for excusing my absence earlier today in our COW meeting, community of the whole meeting. I had a death in the family. I was not able to be in attendance, but I did listen in. I wanted to highlight one thing specifically that I saw in the report. It spoke to 6 or 7 things that require community engagement. And so what I wanted to highlight was just that term require. Require means mandate. And I appreciated hearing that specific word, because it wasn't, this is something we wanted to do or something we were thinking about. It's something that's built into the process that said this is required, that we go out and have this community engagement. So I wanted to thank the staff for the presentation. I still have to dig in further with that information, because I believe that the information that was provided online was just as of recent. I haven't had a chance to really dig into it. Next, I wanted to, the resolution that we made earlier that highlighted two families were present homes. I don't know them personally, but I recognize the last name, Swindle and Wyrick, two families that have been in the community for quite a bit of time. I'm assuming if they're related directly to the Swindle and the Wyricks. And so, and that warms my heart just because I know, and I get a feeling, I get a sense of the family, because I've been here all my life. I get to know a feeling and a sense of the family that it's affecting. And so I'm truly appreciative of those efforts. And so I look forward to those continued working relationships that are creating these opportunities. What else did I have noted here? I wanted to also highlight something else that was mentioned in our consent agenda around zoning. I don't know if any of my colleagues, I'm sure Commissioner Knott, Mayor Anderson, and Commissioner Urban can attest to this. City staff has been doing a pretty good job with zoning. We, at one point, were having, super long meetings around what I call reactionary zoning versus proactive zoning. Issues where community came back and had a lot of pushback for one reason or another, and we were creating those changes. But staff has been doing a very, very good job with being proactive in our zoning efforts, and I'm not sure, maybe because they've matured, I'm not sure what they figured out to figure that out. But I just wanted to highlight. I know that I was one of the main individuals who was critical of us having to make any zoning change quite often. That caused us to have extended meetings or extended issues within the zoning without, I don't know whether it was community input, one reason or another. Anyways, I just wanted to highlight the great work that city staff has been doing around zoning. For whatever reason, one reason or another, there's been, I want to recognize that improvement. And I think though, that's all I have for tonight. Thank you again to the City Commission for all the great work that you guys have been doing. And to even highlight that even further, I can share frustration with the work that's been done as a City Commission and our failures, because I live it, I worked it, I breathed it. And every time pay raises came up for the City Commission, I never thought twice about giving myself a pay raise. So I just want to put it in perspective for my colleagues and for the community at large. Now, mind you, we get a much smaller amount, but at the end of the day, it still says a lot, because I look back on the work that I've done, and there's been failures as a commissioner, and there's been good years and there's been bad years as a commissioner. So I truly thank you to all of the employees of city staff. You guys have been doing just an amazing job, and hopefully after I'm gone here in 2 months, that work continues.
Thank you, Commissioner Cunningham. Commissioner Knott.
Thanks, Mayor Anderson. Aaron Knott. I want to just take a few minutes to speak on behalf of myself, as well as the dozens of residents, professors, and WMU staff who are concerned about WMU's refusal to mandate a COVID-19 vaccination for employees and students taking classes on campus. For any media that are paying attention tonight, I want to just let you know that the commission requested that the city manager reach out to President Montgomery a few weeks ago, which he did. And he reported back to us on August 21st that or maybe he didn't, excuse me, let me correct the record. I don't know if he actually reached out to Montgomery or another WMU leader, but we learned on August 24th that a vaccine mandate was not on the table at present time, and that WMU was going to stand by its mask mandate and weekly testing program. I think it goes without saying that there's universal agreement amongst experts that if we're going to achieve a post-pandemic way of life, experts including WMU School of Medicine, the doctors that teach there, that we need to have universal vaccination. And I'm thoroughly really disappointed in WMU's leadership right now. At last count, I believe we're at 10 public universities across Michigan that have universal vaccination mandates, as well as over 800 universities and colleges nationwide. And despite the overwhelming faculty and community support for a vaccine mandate at WMU, the administration continues to opt out and instead is in choosing, again, the onerous task of a testing system, a badge system, weekly testing for those that have self-reported that they're not vaccinated. And what I'm learning from, again, community stakeholders, students, staff, et cetera, is that one, that plan was created without any consultation from the COVID-19 Fall Task Force. And two, that it apparently is not working. So I've heard from Syndicate staff that they don't have the staff capacity or the financial resources to engage in the robust testing. We're talking about thousands of tests per week. Additionally, the editor-in-chief of the Western Herald, I believe, tweeted today that she didn't upload her vaccine status or show up for mandatory testing, and her badge right now displays green. She also tweeted out today that none of her classes are enforcing the 6-foot social distancing. And I've heard from part-time staff as well as faculty staff reporting that there's been an increase this fall in class caps, packing students into too tight of classrooms. So classrooms that were tight on a good year are now packed to the brim because of these increased class caps. I've heard from students that mask mandates are a joke on campus. And I think that that is evident when the WMU comms folks, tweet out and provide on other social media platforms celebrating Fall Welcome 2021, showing students in recreational type poses and activities, celebrating coming back to campus, while not a single one of them wearing a mask or experiencing any kind of social distancing. Furthermore, the staff has shared with me that WMU has not provided any guidance or best practices for implementing the mask mandate. So the question remains, is the student dismissed? Is class canceled? What are the faculty and staff supposed to do when students aren't wearing masks when they come to class? So I guess my question is, and I've asked this question in previous sessions back in April or May of 2020, when WMU pink slipped many of its staff, citing financial shortfalls. Why does the university's leadership continue to put profits over people? And I also ask, when is our local media really going to dig in and report on this issue? Because this is impacting not only the campus, but the community at large. I think we've all, talked about the fact that WMU is bleeding enrollment right now. And I really question not only President Montgomery, but the Board of Trustees' decision-making as it relates to not complying with science, not having a vax mandate as a tool, a misguided tool to compete with other universities that are taking students away from WMU. So my call is that media reach out to me, and I can connect you to folks that are deeply on the ground at WMU that talk about these stories. I think that we need to, as a commission, continue to put pressure on Western, because thousands of students have moved back into our neighborhoods, and it's just a matter of time before we start seeing some outbreaks. And as Mr. Messer likes to say, when he, again, attempts to pressure us to not think about the public health, responsibility that we have, bragging about the fact that Western is going to welcome thousands of people back to Waldo Stadium this weekend is not necessarily a best practice. Again, Western leadership acknowledge that if you're in crowded spaces, such as football games, everybody should be wearing a mask. That is the recommendation. And I venture a guess that we're not going to be seeing that when the Broncos play their first home opener, in short order. So I welcome all of you to continue to put some pressure on WMU, talk to the faculty, the staff, the students, and my hope is that the media really kind of digs in and peels back what is motivating, leadership to not follow the science, not listen to their own doctors at the School of Medicine, and continue to implement a policy that's only putting all of us in harm's way. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Knott. Commissioner Pradel.
Sure. Thank you, Mayor. This is Commissioner Chris Pradel. First off, Eric, my condolences to you and your family. Sorry for your loss, and I'm glad you could be with family tonight for the committee of the whole meeting. Also wanted to just recognize one of our own. So if anybody's been following, Erin was recognized by Cranes Detroit this week as a 2021 notable LGBTQ in business, which is a pretty big honor. I mean, in addition to being appointed by the governor to serve in a leadership capacity this year, that's a pretty big recognition for your work, Erin. And so just wanted to congratulate you on that. You're the most famous among us here. So I was just wondering, as some sort of a follow-up, I know Clerk Borland, you mentioned the petition that was circulated by residents on north side around North Church Street. I just wonder if there's some opportunity for engagement, community engagement, whether I know Public Service has been doing a great job of outreach home to home and talking with residents and trying to get an idea of what's going on. But I just wonder if there's some opportunity for maybe, you know, some sort of a Zoom town hall invitation to residents in that area if they want to learn more information, or if there's some opportunity to, you know, collectively provide an update to those residents about what we know and what's happening and how that's being addressed. It seemed like a pretty substantive list, and so I think that follow-up would be worthwhile in some form or another. For anybody who missed our committee of the whole meeting earlier, I feel like I regularly try to reference people, encourage people to go back and watch those because there's a lot of great content in those. You can find those on our YouTube page, but tonight we got an update about the 40 recommendations from the OIR report. And it was just really, you know, it was great to see that. I mean, basically each one of those will be hopefully addressed in some fashion or another within 90 days. And the 7 that had TBD next to them were items that city administration and public safety hope to collect more community input on. So there will be opportunities for that. So I really encourage the public to go back and check that out if you haven't already. And then also check out the KDPS transparency dashboard, because there will be a spreadsheet where those 40 things will be listed, and in real time you can see what the progress is of each of those 40 recommendations. So definitely check those out if you haven't already. If anybody followed the news today, I mean, kind of horrifying. There was an individual that was stuck waist high in the sediment in the Kalamazoo River for 4 hours. And the person probably would have drowned or died in that river had golfers at Red Arrow Golf Course not heard the person screaming. Pretty horrifying, but it ultimately comes down to the fact that there is a significant amount of sediment buildup in our river that was a human-made issue that was caused by you know, the Morrow Dam further up. So I, you know, really encourage anybody and everybody who can continue to keep their foot on the gas and accountability for that sediment overflow that's causing, in my opinion, a significant safety risk to people who, you know, kayak or, you know, regularly are on the banks of the river. You know, it is fully demonstrated in full form today. So I just wanted to make sure to lift that up and continue to elevate that. I also wanted to thank Clerk Borland for hearing a resident caller about the minutes being updated as well. I know we got a big batch of those in our packet. And also just wanted to really thank the administration for hearing the input about a county-city partnership with the ARP funding, the American Rescue Plan funding, the federal stimulus, the $38.8 million. I think that's amazing, awesome work, and I'm really, really proud of the fact that we're working with other municipalities to, you know, make a greater impact on that. And I know Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Commissioner Cunningham, you're involved with that as well. But I just was thrilled to see that work being done. So I want to thank you for that. That's all I have for tonight.
A lot of stuff. Thank you, Commissioner Pradel. Commissioner Hess.
Is a lot of stuff. Hey, thank you. I just want a real appreciation, excuse me, to this commission for being who you are, for using your voices for the greater good of this community. Everyone brings something different to the table, and I think mine's a little bit different. However, you know, Commissioner Pradel, you did steal my bit about Commissioner Knott, because she's all that. Like she is the Cranes Detroit notable executive in the LGBTQ plus community, and that's a big honor. Here's what they said about her. Not only has Erin worked tirelessly for the equality, expanded protections, and supporting all members of the LGBTQ plus community, she has had to do so during one of the most challenging times for our community and the world. COVID-19 has brought unforeseen challenges for the work that we do at Equality Michigan, and has disproportionately affected our community, especially LGBTQ plus youth and those who might have been in domestic abuse situations. Erin, thank you for your work on behalf of all those most vulnerable people. I appreciate your work. And you know, I'm just proud to serve alongside you. I appreciate your voice and all of the truths that you speak on a regular basis. Secondly, hey, I had a chance to meet with Jody Berlinski. Jody is heading up a task force from First Congregational Church that is building the Children's Nature Playscape on Bronson Park, the little piece of land there that's next to First Congregational Church, behind First Baptist, that's been cleared and is ready for building. But those are, it's going to be a natural playscape for the young people in our town, all the people. It'll be available all year long. And it's right there on Academy Street. And there's intent to construct a natural playscape. For more information on this, please go to kalamazooplayscape.org to learn more, to volunteer, to work on fundraising, and to be a part of what is exciting to me as a grandparent, to be able to bring my grandkids to this wonderful space where all the kids of Kalamazoo can gather. And then I was able to be out looking at the all the good things that are happening in MLK Park. And I happened to run into two Kalamazoo city workers, James Baranowski and James Wilson, who work with the Public Services Department putting down cement. It was one of those horrible 90-degree days, and they were working on our MLK Park. And I just wanted to give them thanks and all the people with whom they work, because not only do they do cement crews in the summertime, they also do snow plowing, and they're multi-talented, and they keep our city safe. They keep our city beautiful, and I want to give them all a great big thanks. And today I was able to run into Owen Ramey, who is one of our arborists, who showed off their new truck. And I don't know if Commission, if you remember, but we did approve the purchase of this new truck to be able to work on trees. And they were doing that this afternoon downtown. However, hearing from Director Baker, they're going to be working all tonight and to clear the effects of the storm that happened today. So thanks to Owen and his crew of arborists. And then sometimes our city employees and Department of Public Safety do things that no one sees or hears about, and they're really good things. And this thing is something that I reached out to this officer to thank him, because like Commissioner Cunningham noted earlier, we do see videos of officers doing certain things. Officer Alex Marshall had made an arrest of a young man with a weapon. And after he pulled him up from the ground, he looked at him and he said, "Are you okay?" Yes, we need training, as we heard about earlier this evening in our ranks, but the compassion of many of our officers goes unnoted. So I wanted to publicly thank Officer Alex Marshall. And then lastly, those who are celebrating Rosh Hashanah, I want to acknowledge you that we look at our lives during this time, we repent for our errors, and we pray for new beginnings, unencumbered by the burdens of past mistakes and conflicts. We forgive one another. We look with compassion on one another, and we look for new beginnings. So for those who celebrate Shana Tova, and here's to a year of new beginnings for all and for those of us in Kalamazoo. And please get your vaccine. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Hess. Vice Mayor Griffin.
Thank you, Mayor Anderson. Okay, so I want to start off today by wishing my daughter Genesis a very happy birthday. Today is her birthday. I'm so proud of her. She is a sophomore at Western, double majoring, and I just couldn't be more proud of my daughter. So I wanted to send her a happy birthday shout out. She is a graduate of Kalamazoo Public Schools, graduated from Kalamazoo Central, which is going to roll me into my next comment. For all of you who may not have heard, there is a shortage of bus drivers at Kalamazoo Public Schools currently. So much so that they are having to cut routes. For specific information, please check Kalamazoo Public Schools website. If you are on social media, go to Kalamazoo Public Schools page on Facebook, because they have updated. There are routes canceled to Kalamazoo Central, Prairie Ridge, Hillside, Woodward, Arcadia, Loy Norix, Linden Grove, Woods Lake, Spring Valley, Lincoln, North Glade, Millwood, and Linden Grove. So that pretty much impacts this entire city, our entire community. If you are interested in seeking a position with them, 269-337-0500, as they are looking for drivers. And in the meanwhile, I also want to lift up community who has always done, but has shown, especially through COVID, that we know how to come together and fill in these gaps for ourselves. So as community might need to rely on each other until there is another need. I just wanted to make sure I lifted that up. And thank you, Commissioner Cunningham, for that reminder. Also, I want to congratulate Commissioner Knott for that recognition. Just to double down on a comment that Commissioner Cunningham lifted up earlier with respects to health assessments. I definitely think that that's something that needs to be done. I also want to lift up health assessments that have currently been done and are currently being done, such as Bronson and their health needs assessment. Making sure that we're looking at the data that's already there, along with being intentional moving forward. And let me see. I guess the last thing I want to lift up is just in respects to the employee evaluations. Mayor Anderson did allude to that, but I'm glad that we're going to be moving away from the process of FOIAs because that creates a barrier. And as government, we should be accessible to the community at every level. And FOIAs, if anyone doesn't know, they cost and can be expensive. And so if that's the only way to find out how your elected representatives are doing their job, then there is a slight issue with that. So I'm glad that we're going to be moving away from that direction. And finally, I just wanted to say comments. I do think it is admirable to a degree for City Manager Ritzema to opt to, I guess, not accept that raise. However, that still doesn't do anything for the commission and the accountability that we're to have with regards to that. That put the responsibility on City Manager Ritzema to make that decision about his accountability, and that shouldn't have been that way. Thank you for stepping up, but that shouldn't have been your call to have to make. That is what our job as electeds are supposed to do. So I just wanted to leave with that final comment, and thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. So once again, we get to a situation where the person who comments last probably doesn't need to say anything because everything that was on my list has already been noted. So I won't get deep into that. I was going to recognize you, Commissioner Knott. Appreciate that. I was also intending to say something about our city-county partnership. That is in its early stages, but I think that is a very positive step. Is that a smaller group, including the Vice Mayor and Commissioner Cunningham, have initially gotten together with county electeds, talking about how we can collaborate more closely. And I think at the front of that list is related to how we will allocate our American Rescue Plan Act funds, our ARPA funds, and specifically as it relates to violence and gun violence. So I'm very, very happy to be involved in that initial work. I think that's a positive sign for our community to be doing that. Another thing that was already mentioned, thank you, Commissioner Hess, that I wanted to mention is that Rosh Hashanah did begin at sunset yesterday, ends tomorrow at nightfall. It is the start of the Jewish New Year. One of the phrases I like describing that is it's beginning of what's called Days of Awe, which goes for a 10-day period. And it's a time for introspection and repentance, which culminates in Yom Kippur, which is 10 days out. So we are meeting in the middle of that. Important time, I think, for all of us to reflect on introspection and repentance, and also focus on the good work we're going to do together going forward. So that is our task, and that's our task as a community. In order to be most productive, I think that we need to continue to keep our hearts open as we do this work. I love you, Kalamazoo. We are adjourned.